started off as a PG podcast, but then Devin just kept on dropping shits and fucks, and now...
That's right. We are live.
The ghost faced himself, Brandon Tanev.
This isn't like the start of last season when it looked like the Canucks were just a beer league team not playing defense at all. And just before Chris goes, I'm Chris, you can actually go now.
no, hold on.
We had to give more time for coming on late. So.
Hold on. All right. Chris go, and then I got something else to say at the end.
So, an elf and a midget in 2 back-to-back games. He's definitely on a friendship tour for sure.
I'm okay with him being, the 6'7" defenseman. No! He is a AHL defenseman right now.
Look, Shonky, don't mind Devin, okay? We all struggle with Devin, so you know.
Good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are. Welcome to the Shifts and Pucks podcast. You can, of course, follow us on Twitter at Shifts and Pucks, Facebook.com, Shifts and Pucks, YouTube.com, Shifts and Pucks, live on Twitch.com, Shifts and Pucks. Subscribe wherever you get your audio, as well as on the Area 51 Sports Network. As we wake up this morning, a little concerned, a bit nervous, a bit something. But as the Calgary Flames lose 3-2 to the Dallas Stars, trail in the series 2-1 to the Dallas Stars. Game 4 is tomorrow, but we're here to unpack Game 3. What is going wrong? What can give us hope? And we will look at the future. And if you have any comments or questions, pop those in there. We'll get to them. And we'll have our discussion. Good morning, first of all, to Dan Stevenson from Fireside Podcast. Hello.
Morning. How are you, Kevin? How are you, Devin?
Could be better.
I agree. And Kevin, you gave me hope for a minute. It was actually a 4-2 loss because there was an empty netter at the end.
Oh, I forgot. That's right. Oh,
I tried to forget that one too. But if we're talking about historical accuracy here, we have to count it.
Oh, and I put I got to change everything on the. On that because I put 3-2 because I forgot about the empty net goal literally happened with a second to go.
Yeah, 1959. Rupe Hintz first of the playoff.
Yes,
get that monkey off his back.
Just like Trevor Lewis did, but
yes. Yeah, well, let's get into it. It's back-to-back 2-0 and then 4-2, so 2 straight losses for the Calgary Flames. They started off with a 1-0 win. They had 115 minutes without a goal, and then they did score they tied the game last night for historical accuracy. It was Dallas that opened the scoring again. Every team that has scored first has won. Okay, maybe let's start here. Out of these 4 particular issues, I'm going to draw all 4 of them. Which is the most concerning for you? Matthew Tkachuk and his fighting John Klingberg, the face-off circle, the fact that the middle 6 have the names are specifically Michael Backlund, Andre Mangiapane, Tyler Toffoli, Calle Yarncroke, Dylan Dubé, and Blake Coleman have a combined total of 0 points in this series, or the play of the specific. I'm going to be a little bit specific here. The play of the pairing of Rasmus Andersson and Noah Hannafin.
I have to pick a card from that set?
Yes. We'll start with...
Can I take the middle 6 card?
Yes. Okay.
All right. I'll play my middle 6 card here. I think, going into the series, and I know I talked about it when I chatted with you guys. We've talked about it on Fireside Chat. The middle 6 needs to be generating scoring chances. And that I think has been a big issue. You can't rely on Johnny Lindholm and Tkachuk to do all the scoring, especially when it's going to be easy to cover that one line. And so far, I thought Mangiapane looked very engaged last night, but I just thought overall that middle 6 didn't look good. And I would argue the 4th line, the line of Lucic, Lewis, and Ritchie, was the Flames' best line last night. But you need to be getting those bottom 3 lines all going scoring-wise and also defensively. This is not a series where you're just going to outscore Dallas.
Yeah, all of those are very concerning. To bring up my top 1, it would have to be
it would have to be Tkachuk. And it's a very close second of the pairing of Rasmus Andersson and Noah Hannafin. Matthew Tkachuk needs to be like noticed whatsoever. And the common denominator right now is the fact that he keeps on getting into a fight with Klingberg and not able to get, in my mind, into the rhythm of the game. And
when you have a 100-point player sitting out for 5, that's not ideal.
Exactly, 100%. That's exactly what Klingberg and the Dallas wants, is to take out one of our top 3 players. And yes, it's Klingberg, but the rest of that D-core in Dallas are no slouches either. So missing Klingberg isn't really that big of an issue when you do have that depth on D with and experience with Suter, Heiskanen, and not so well Hanley as well, right? And Lindell. So it's one of those things where Tkachuk needs to stay out of the box. He needs to be focused from the start of the game.
Tkachuk played only 13 seconds in the first 9:37 yesterday. So, I mean, let's just call it 10 minutes he was out. That is concerning. Now, I want to preface that. I think it's good that Tkachuk is out there doing Matthew Tkachuk things, but I think that Klingberg's the wrong dance partner. If you're out there dancing with one of their top guys and you're trying to fire your team up, if you're dancing with Hintz or Pavelski or, someone like that, maybe. But I think that Klingberg, it's just you're letting them get in your head. And that's where I think Tkachuk is getting off his game. And it's just about, let's go after Klingberg.
And I also think I wonder if it is getting the entire team off his floor, because I believe the first 10 minutes, again, we had, and someone can correct me if I'm wrong, because I'm going by memory on this. I'll look this up in a second. We had at least 2 4-on-4s in the first 10 minutes of this game. And this has been
the story of this series.
It's been a huge story in this series. And it's not allowing the middle 6 lines to get into some sort of rhythm. And I'm not making an excuse for them, but when the Flames are effective, they're rolling 4 lines consistently. Everybody knows their role, and they're able to establish that. And when Matthew Tkachuk out of the way the first 5 minutes of the game, it's and they even had an early power play on there that Matthew wasn't on either, if I remember it correct, because it was
Kevin. The number is 9:56 of 4-on-4 play. So let's just round it off. We played a half period with 4 guys.
Yeah. And then there was the early power play, and then Tkachuk wasn't on that either. It's not allowing the middle 6 to be in flow, and it's not allowing Tkachuk to be in any flow at all, because he's
no.
Other than the fights with Klingberg, he's been completely invisible in 2 games of this series. Like in game 1, I mean, yes, it was 1-0, but it was his pin on the board that led to the victory in a lot of ways. That was that final shift. But other than that, he's been generally invisible.
Yeah.
And as a leader, we've talked about this for the past little bit the past 2 years, maybe not excluding last year, that he could be the next captain of this team. Definitely not shown that in the past 2 years. As far as maturity, but you saw some steps towards it this year. But if you're looking up to that top line to produce and to be as good as they have been, and I'm not even going to put Lindholm in that conversation, but Johnny Gaudreau and Matthew Tkachuk need to be better. They need to be on par with what the hell is happening, because I've loved Lindholm. Lindholm has been my favorite player other than Markstrom for the Flames in this series. But Matthew Tkachuk and Johnny Gaudreau need to show up.
Well, Gaudreau not showing up in the playoffs has been something we've said from him his whole career. And I'm hoping that, if this guy's looking for a big raise, he's going to have to show up in the playoffs. You're not going to get that kind of money.
Okay, so Lindholm, I think he's been fine. I don't think, other than the face-off circle, but I think I want to add, I want to get to the face-off circle because I do believe that there's another issue going on here. But I don't think Johnny has been bad, but as Daryl said, you get a breakaway with 4 minutes to go, you got to score flat out. And he literally he shot it at Ottinger. It literally went like if this is the crest, he literally pinned it right there. Like that wasn't Johnny's greatest shot. It was a great pass from Toffoli, great setup, breakdown from Dallas. But Daryl was right. Your job is to score, and he didn't do it. So from that point of view, totally agree. Johnny is not scoring enough.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And I think one thing I saw last night is the Flames not being there to finish. There's a number of times they had a guy in front of the net and there'd be a rebound and Dallas would lift our stick and take it and go the other way. And I think part of any great scorer needs a great setup guy. And when we can't, get that second or third opportunity, or sometimes even the first one on the net correctly, it's going to be tough for Johnny or anybody to score.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A few times we had a guy in front of the net and just got pushed out of the way. Like, we need to be more dominant in front of that net.
We need to take a page out of Dallas's book. Where have they scored all their goals? Off of rebounds and tipping.
Yep. Exactly.
That's exactly what happened. Pavelski's 2 goals last night. Fox's amazing tip. And Markstrom has he's like with the tip, he can't do anything about that. You really can't. And then with the rebounds, that's the defenseman's job, or whoever's in front of the net's job to tie up or do exactly what Dallas is doing to us. Push us out of the way, or push them out of the way. And it's so frustrating.
And Devin, I would add to that, not only is Dallas getting tips in front, but they're clogging up the net. I think part of Markstrom's problem is he can't see properly because there's a lot of bodies there, whether it's our bodies or their bodies. And then Calgary's got to do a better job of just getting those bodies in there. How many times did we see them go in last night on the boards, put it towards the net, and Dallas took it again and we went the other way? Like, we just got to clog up a young goaltender like Ottinger.
They need to get in his grill. And that's what I loved about the controversy about the Trevor Lewis goal. Like, whether you thought it was a goal or not, and I know Devin, we in our chat thought for sure it was a goal. I don't know what your thought was, Dan, but it was UGGGGLLLLYYYY ugly. And they need to get some ugly goals. And Daryl talked about that with Andre Mangiapane this year, late in the year, because everyone was talking about Andre Mangiapane. He's got 35 goals, and he said, you're not going to get those pretty goals in the playoffs. He warned everyone, and like, we've got one real ugly goal, and the other 2 from Lindholm were 2 nice snipes. And Dallas has gotten, they got the 2 empty nets, and the goals that they've got, they have been UGGGGLLLLYYY ugly goals. I mean,
and well, I would even say, okay, pick, let's say, Andrew Mangiapane, since he hasn't really been a big impact for me in this series. Run the goalie, get him off his game, and yes, you're going to cause a scrum, but that mentality and that kind of strategy, you're allowed to do that in the NHL. I mean, you're going to get a penalty, but fucking do it. Absolutely. Make sure that Ottinger isn't comfortable. He looks way too comfortable in that net.
Yeah. And he is giving up juicy rebounds. If you look at Ottinger's play, he's giving up big rebounds. The Flames need to be there to capitalize on them.
That's Ottinger's MO too, is that
listening to
exactly. But like it's part of his plan. He's not doing it outside of his strategy. That's exactly what he wants to do. He wants to kick the puck past the second wave of the Flames and then transition the other way. That's exactly what his game plan is.
Yeah.
So Calgary needs to realize that, maybe take a step back where he's or whoever is coming in. Yes, you want to get to the net as fast as you can, but if you have somebody coming on the wing, just be in the high slot and the puck will come to you.
Kevin, you were mentioning this earlier, and it's not one of the cards you let us pick from, but I think faceoffs need to be talked about. Yesterday, Elias Lindholm lost 3 offensive zone draws late in the game with the goalie pulled against 3 different Dallas players. Like, when you can't win the faceoff in the offensive zone, especially, you don't get that. You got to then fight to get the puck back. And it did look like for most of last night, Calgary had 42% efficiency in the playoff dot, or 48, sorry. they were having to fight Dallas to get that puck. We need to be winning those, especially in the offensive zone, to take control of the puck and have that ability to make that quick shot or things like that. And I think that was a big part of the loss. Calgary couldn't win offensive zone faceoffs.
And there's that set play that they have where Lindholm scored the first goal of the series, where it was a win, and then he steps back a little bit from the guy on the boards, and it comes in for a shot. And there's also another play that was very similar to that. They realized that, or Dallas realized that Lindholm was going to take that shot, and they had another play within that. Winning that draw in the offensive zone is huge.
Exactly.
So let me ask another question though, because I do agree with you. It is an issue, and it's been I don't think that this has been. There's two ways that we can go with this. And I want to, there is a centerman I do want to talk about in this, but I watching a little bit of the Carolina-Boston game before we started here. Bergeron scored the tying goal. He barely won the draw. The reason he won the draw is because Brad Marchand jumped in quicker to get that puck than the other winger in Carolina did. How much is this center? And how much is this winger?
Depends on the strategy.
I mean, I think the center, I think the center has to win the draw in most cases. You can't always rely on your winger, especially with some big guys like Dallas has who can tie up your wingers. You look at a small guy like Mangiapane, matching up against some of their big guys. I think you need the centers to be able to win it.
Yeah, it's all about communication too. If you're not going to win the draw cleanly and you're noticing you're not doing that, you need to be pushing that guy off the puck once it's dropped, and then you can have whichever winger come in. Right? It's one of those things where if it's not working, you need to switch it up.
And as they say in football, I think you got to be able to call an audible on the ice and say, I don't think, like Devin said, I don't think I'm going to be able to win this cleanly. So now we need to get that winger ready to go.
Yeah, it's the communication on the ice. The other issue here, and I'm just want to confirm my bias before I say this.
Well, you're confirming that, Kevin. I think you can go the other way with the winger, though. We've seen times when the wingers come in and then they're out of position. There's nobody to pass that to once, you've won it because you got two guys in the circle. So I don't think we can always rely on a winger coming in there. I think it's got to be feel and it's got to be, as we said, communication. Because if we get everybody going in the circle, who are we going to pass to? And the defense can only hang on to that for so long.
Yeah.
This wasn't as big of an issue game 2 as it was in game 3. But the fact is, if your centerman's being thrown out of the faceoff circle, you need to be better at winning those faceoffs. There was only one winger that took a faceoff that was not a centerman last night, and that was Brett Ritchie, and he was 50%. And Lucic. Lucic was actually 50%. So they were a little better on that when you wave out the centerman, and someone else has to take another draw. That was a bit better. They were 50% on that. Game 2, that was brutal, to be frank. But look, Lindholm was 41%, Backlund was 50%, Yarncrow was 45%. We'll get to him in a second. Dallas, Pavelski was 43%, Jamie Benn 45%, Roope Hintz was 10% in the faceoff circle. Interesting.
The funny thing to me last night, the Flames' most consistent forward in the faceoff circle was Trevor Lewis.
Yes. I would almost argue he was at least the second best forward on the Flames last night.
I think the Flames needed some energy last night. I think that fourth line came through and delivered it. And if we're going to be chasing around Dallas guys trying to fight, those are the guys that should be doing it. Because those are, I hate to say it, the guys we can afford to sit down for 5 minutes.
Yeah. Yeah.
The one thing I was happy, the Flames didn't get a too many men penalty last night.
Yep. Yeah. Which leads me to the middle 6. I haven't. Okay, so with Mangiapane, I think he's been mostly engaged. He's got to hit the net. Toffoli, he's got to hit the net. He would have had an assist if Goodrow scores. So I think he's getting his chances. I think he's been I can't complain too much. Okay, last night he had 3 shots on goal, 1 hit, no giveaways, no takeaways. Yarncrow had 3 shots on goal. Backlund, 53% in the faceoff circle, 3 shots on goal, -1, no giveaways, no takeaways. Mangiapane, just to go through the numbers here, 2 shots on goal, 1 hit. Dubé, 2 shots on goal, 1 hit, 3 blocks. I mean, Dubé, they've been the one prop, I guess my biggest struggle out of all 6, maybe has been Yarncrow. I don't think he fits as a center.
But if not him, who?
Well, we had the discussion of tossing Ruzicka in the lineup after game 2 because of this face-off issue, because he's a natural centerman. I know he's not experienced, and I know that Daryl's allergic to inexperience, but at this point, if your argument is that you can afford to take Brett Ritchie off the ice for 5 minutes, can you keep him off the ice for 60 minutes to put Adam Ruzicka in the lineup?
I think that you need Brett Ritchie, though, to create some energy there. Like, to me, and I don't mean this to sound bad to Adam, I don't know that Adam brings something different I think we would lose on taking Ritchie out of the lineup. I don't know that Ruzicka brings anything better than Yarncrow besides just different. I also don't know how long Ruzicka will stay here before he goes down to help the Stockton Heat with their playoff run.
Oh, that's a good point.
I think that you can afford to not have a great face-off winner on that third line. I just think, to me, and I think I said this when I was on with you guys, I'm starting to forget where I say what. I think that the middle 6 need to be changed. I think that the second line should be Backlund, Coleman, Toffoli. And I think that third line should be Dubé, Yarncrow, and Mangiapane.
They did switch it up for a little bit. There was a Yarncrow, Dubé, Toffoli shift last night.
There was.
Devin, you've called for this too, but you've called for it differently.
I think Devin has left us.
Oh, hey, there's Devin. Where did Devin go? Oh, hi, Devin.
I've been waiting backstage for at least 5 minutes. I accidentally pressed the wrong button. Anyways.
Kevin, to me, Coleman has been good, and Coleman has that experience, and I think you've got to reward that.
Sorry, Devin, I didn't miss that. I was looking at stats. I missed your private chats.
All good. I do agree that middle 6 needs to be changed 100%. Whether or not that is Coleman going up on that second line with Backlund and let's say I would even say Yarncrow, and then you have Dubé centering that third line with Toffoli and Mangiapane. There's got to be something. There's got to be some sort of way to switch that up because Toffoli, he is underwhelming to me right now. He needs to get going. Where he's successful is when he scores goals. And when you have a Dubé type of player who can create speed and he could be a really good passer too. And then you have Mangiapane, who's just can be a bulldog. And I don't know. You got to find a way to get Toffoli going.
And Devin, I agree with you about Toffoli being good when he's scoring goals, and that's why I think putting Coleman and Backlund, 2 guys that are really good at moving the puck, could then make that. So okay, Toffoli's our guy to move that puck too. On the third line, if you've got Dubé with the speed, you got Mangiapane as your scorer there. Yarncrow becomes your defensive forward. I think you really balance out those lines a lot better.
My only thing with as Yarncrow, he's not a playmaker. We know this.
No,
he is a defensive forward, and my only thing with having him on any line is the fact that it's just going to be a defensive line, no matter who his flanks are. So I don't know exactly who you can have him with to create success.
At the same time, we've said that about Michael Backlund in earlier incarnations of himself as well, and he's come out of that. And I think that, it's not bad to have that defensive forward, especially the way Dallas is breaking out. I think you just got to look at him as maybe being the man back and maybe one of your defensemen plays a little ahead then.
Yeah, it's either that or you start you break up that fourth line, because those guys are playing very well, tenacious. Get Lucic and Dubé back together, because that Lucic, Dubé, Bennett line last year played very well, and maybe have Mangiapane or even Toffoli on that line.
Well, and that could work well too. If you go with Lucic, Dubé, Richie, let's say on the fourth line, and then your third line is Yarncroke, Lewis, Coleman, which if you just kind of swap those guys around, that might not be bad either.
My whole solution within that thought process is just to create more energy on that middle six, because it's so flat.
What about, okay, I'm just going to toss this out there. I know that the chances of this are 0.4%, but I'm going to toss it out there. Toffoli with Lindholm and Tkachuk, or Lindholm and Gaudreau, sorry, and then Tkachuk with Backlund and Coleman, or Backlund, Mangiapane.
I don't disagree, but I think that Toffoli hasn't shown he should be there yet.
It's almost to a point that, like, we're just talking about desperation now, essentially, and I don't think it really matters whether or not he's earned his spot there. It's just we've got to get a spark from somebody, a goal scorer, to get going, and to show the quote unquote demotion for Tkachuk, because he hasn't shown up. I barely even notice him on the ice unless he's fighting Klingberg. Like, other than that, I really don't notice the things that made him successful in the regular season. His game is perfect for the playoffs, but he hasn't been able to hone that in. And so giving him a little bit of a kick in the ass to go down onto that second line with Backlund and whoever, Coleman or Mangiapane, could give an opportunity for Toffoli to start rolling.
Yeah, and when you put it that way, I agree. And the other thing there, I think, is if Matthew's going to keep taking dumb penalties, it keeps our first line intact.
Yes, exactly. And where Toffoli is good, and what are the most opportunities that we have had are on the rush. We've had a hard time sustaining any sort of pressure in the offensive zone by cycling the puck or whatever the case may be, because they're shutting that down. And where Toffoli thrives is off the rush. He has a hell of a shot, and he can disperse it easily enough, especially having Gaudreau and Lindholm dispersing him that puck. So I would love to see that. But what's the reality of Daryl Sutter switching up his lines right now?
I don't think it's as minimal as you think it is.
No, I think Daryl's a smart enough guy to know that maybe he's got to try it for a game or a period of a game and see what happens.
My worry is that he might just stand pat and do minimal changes, minimal stuff. When I
heard when was it? I don't know who asked the question about the fourth line last night, but I heard a consternation from Daryl. He kept his mouth shut. He said, "You need shifts," and I think there was a little bit of a shot to Matthew Tkachuk in that comment. Actually, I don't think he's super enamored. I think he said he wanted Tkachuk to be confrontational, and he was fine with it. But I don't think he's super happy with Tkachuk. And I don't think he's super happy that he had to answer that the fourth line was the best line. So I wouldn't be surprised if we do see some changes. We see a mix up in some way, shape, or form.
I think it's necessary.
I think when we talk about a mix up too, it doesn't mean he's got to keep it for the whole game. Maybe you do it for the first period next game, and if things work well, mix guys back to where they were. Like, it's not like we're committing to this forever and always for 60 minutes every game. But yeah, I would come out next game and try something a little bit different.
I just want to see something from Tkachuk, whether that's defensive plays, anything to see that he's on the ice.
Yeah.
Now, with the power play, that was the other thing. I don't know if we have this before we get to the defense. I don't know where we are in terms of concern with the power play. But one of the things that we suggested last time, Dan, get your thoughts. Not all the time, but maybe to get Ottinger off of his game, would you put Lucic on as a net front presence on power play too? Not all the time, but at least get them thinking that there's a possibility that you'll see Milan in front of the net creating some havoc.
I can see where you're going with that, but again, in a desperation move, I'm not sure that's where I'd want to be. With the Flames where they are now, going into this next game needing a win, I think that there's better guys that can move that puck up there. If they were ahead in the series, I would definitely say that could be a something to do, but I'm not sure that's the best use for Milan right now. Also, with how many penalties we've been getting, I think that it's hard to talk about our power play because everybody's getting jumbled up all over the place.
Yeah, and the 4-on-4. I mean, there's been 9 4-on-4s in the past 2 games.
Yeah.
Like we need to be capitalizing, especially with our speed. Like we Johnny Gaudreau, Elias Lindholm, Dylan Dubé, Andrew Mangiapane. Those are the players that need to thrive during those times, and they're not.
How much of this do you guys feel is maybe the Flames getting off their games? I mean, we've seen a number of too many men penalties already, which to me is just a mental penalty. How much of this is the Flames just not being the Flames, and they just need to? It's not about playing differently. It's about fixing whatever's up here. Anytime I think about a too many men penalty, I always think of the old Gary Roberts too much man penalty, the penalty I try every day to get.
It's a good point. It just you are right. It doesn't seem like they are who they have been.
Like, I would say if we break down all 3 zones, the Flames have been the better team. They haven't been getting the best scoring chances. They haven't been, protecting their net as well. But I would say if we look at the overall totality of 60 minutes over 3 games and 3 zones, the Flames have been the better team. But there's something going wrong up here. And I don't know if it's just chasing Dallas around because they're upset with these guys. I don't know what it is.
I would disagree that we were good in our neutral zone in the second game. The second game was atrocious. We could not.
For sure. But I think Calgary in that game was, and I'm not saying they've been better in all zones, but if we look at the totality, I think they weren't as good in the neutral zone, but I thought they were better than Dallas in the offensive zone in that game.
Yeah, they just need to get their heads right around.
I mean, we've seen they can do this, right? We've seen that they're a good team, and there's something not right out there when you look at the way they're playing. And I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's they're getting cocky. They think Dallas is an easy opponent. I don't know what it is, but they're not playing the way the Flames have played.
Well, why do you think we're talking about all this line switching the lines up? Is because we are talking about grasping at straws right now because what is working, what is happening is not working.
That's it. But I guess where I'm going to is we've seen these same things work in the past. So is it, something on the ice? Is it some between the ears? I think, that's what the coach really has to figure out.
Along with the playoffs is a completely different game from regular season, right? And so that having that mind switch of being like, well, this is working in the past. Well, it's a completely different game and mindset that you have to have going into these playoff games, and I don't think that they have that right now. And that's why I think switching up the lines will get their brains in a different order to maybe figure something out, and something might start clicking.
I think changing the lines, and I think if I was Darryl, I would also be given a clear message to stay out of the box. Be smart. Think about where your stick is. Think about where your hands are. No matter how tempting it is to drop the gloves, let the other guy drop them. Send him to the box. We want to stay out of there. And I think that might be how you're going to start getting demoted down this lineup is the guys that are taking penalties.
If Tkachuk gets into another fight within the first 5 minutes, I'm going to lose my fucking mind.
I mean, if you're a Dallas player and you're dropping the gloves and our guy's skating away, you look like an idiot, and you're probably going to sit for 2 for trying to instigate.
See, I guess my thing here is looking at this team, there's enough experience here that we shouldn't be having a conversation about the mindset. This is a veteran team. Like, this isn't a veteran team that has been together for years, but we look at Tyler Toffoli. We talked about this. Tyler Toffoli, Stanley Cup ring. Blake Coleman, Stanley Cup ring. Milan Lucic, Stanley Cup ring. Calle Jarnkrok, Stanley Cup finalist.
The
Chris
man
Taylor,
behind the bench leading them through this knows what it takes. He's got a ring or 2 as well.
Yeah, so we shouldn't be talking about mindset, and we shouldn't be talking about desperation. And I don't know if that's the mindset in the dressing room necessarily. This is kind of where, and I mentioned this before. I think this is the one good thing about doing these podcasts after the morning after or the day after, is because it allows for some clarity and not. I mean, it's sure you'll get some hits when you're swearing up a storm on a podcast after a game. Sure, that's there. You'll catch that emotion, but I don't think that that's real emotion. I don't think there's real facts in that. Here are some real. Here's what I think. This is an experienced team that doesn't as bad as they have looked. It's still been a close series, and there's still things that they can adjust. And I still think they can win the series. Maybe I'm wearing my Flames colors and I all of that, but I look at it. There's just too much experience in this locker room for me to see that they're not going to find a way to adjust here.
Kevin, on that note, how much of this do you think is the Flames being unlucky? I mean, I think Ottinger's looked better than he showed. I think Dallas has been opportunistic, taking Calgary out of their groove. How much of this is just Dallas being lucky?
A lot. I thought Ottinger looked very nervous in the first 10 minutes of that game, that if you would have got one or two, the floodgates open. I don't think Jake Ottinger is a bad goalie, but I don't think Jake Ottinger is this good of a goalie.
I don't think he's a playoff starter at this point in his career.
Yeah,
no,
and the Flames
this is rookie year.
Yeah, the Flames are making him look like one right now. Now,
and just on your point of there's a lot of veteran presence who've been there before. Other than Toffoli, those are all role players, right? We don't have a real skilled offensive forward that's been there before and that's done it. And I think that might be the difference as well. Say, for instance, we had a TJ Oshie, or we had, I don't know, Tom Wilson. I know Tom Wilson is a, he's a unicorn because there's only one Tom Wilson. But having those players who have actually been there and done it, who are skilled, I think has it would be a difference maker.
I don't see with Johnny though. Like maybe again wearing my biased Flames colors at this particular point in time as I'm doing this, but I honestly think that Johnny is this close to having a big game. I really do. He's got to bury him. He had a chance even in the first minute of the game. Ottinger did the little. And he's done this a couple of times. He's getting a little too arrogant, a little too confident for my liking. But Johnny's had his chances, and I think there's a big game or a big moment coming here in this series. I really do.
I hope so. I hope you're right, because I have that same feeling too, because he's done it all year. But the matter of fact is that he hasn't done it. He hasn't scored yet. He hasn't been a flashy guy. And that's where Johnny thrives. That's how he's successful, and we just haven't seen that pep in his step.
Devin, when you said there's only one Tom Wilson, the first thing I thought of is I bet Canadian census data would disagree with that, but I know what you're trying to say.
That's fair. There's only one John Doe.
That's right. I would imagine if we were to look it up, there's several Tom Wilsons, but yeah, I know what you're trying to say.
Yeah.
And I think as much as we're talking about all the issues, we have to remember Calgary's down by 1. We're not at a 3-1 Dallas series.
No.
And I mean, Calgary's 1-1. Calgary they haven't got blown out. It's not like some of the Eastern series we're getting 6-0 wins. Like, I think, these two teams are evenly matched. And I think really a lot of things we're talking about here, and I know we'll probably talk about the defense as well. I think for Calgary, it's tweaks. It's not they're broken. It's not they can't do this. They just need to figure out what Dallas is doing and tweak around it. And everyone's got to get going. And I'm still being down by 1. I'm still confident the Flames can do this.
Okay,
if we lose Monday, I feel very different. But
I am too. It's just it's losing 2 in a row like we have is hard on the psyche, and the fans that were feeling like it was all over and done with after the second game. I'm starting to feel that now. I'm starting to feel that anxiousness of not being too hopeful of what's happening. But I mean, to your point, Dan, Calgary hasn't been lucky. And we talked about this on the last podcast. There needs to be some puck luck going our way where Jake Ottinger is going to be kicking it right to somebody's stick in the fucking slot, right there. And that's not so much puck luck, but you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, and like I said at the top of the show, right, he was giving up some juicy rebounds, but Dallas was picking them up. It wasn't Calgary, and I think maybe it's just even watching a little more tape to figure that out. Talking about Calgary only being down by 1, I just wanted to share a tweet from someone that tweeted with us today. He said, I didn't get to go to the first 2 games. Glad this is going to go at least 5 because now I'll get to be in the Dome. So, maybe there is some silver lining to all this.
There you go. Before we get to the psyche, let's get to the defense. Noah Hannafin has had a tough time. And I think the general problem, overall with the Flames defense, I haven't hated their defensive play too much. I mean, there's been giveaways, but my biggest issue from an offensive point of view is they are not doing a good enough job keeping the puck at the offensive blue line. And tale of an example of that last night was the adventures of Rasmus Andersson in the final minute of that game, where he lost his stick, went and got his stick, ran into a Flame player. That was a comedy of errors for Rasmus Andersson that led to the empty net goal. And Noah Hannafin is he's struggling on both ends. He's struggling offensively, he's struggling defensively. I'm not saying that you need to break them up, but they definitely need to be better.
On that play that Rasmus lost his stick, he should have just left it and gone to the bench. Mm-hmm. Realistically, or they would have handed him a stick, because him taking himself out of that play and just having that comedy of errors was costly for a potential tying goal. I agree. I don't think you split them up. I was going through that thought process, okay, well, what are you going to do? You're going to put Noah Hannafin or Rasmus Andersson with Oliver Shillington? That to me,
it doesn't do you much good.
No, you need Tanev to help support that young rookie in Oliver Shillington. So
unless you want to go Anderson Zadorov, there's the winning pair.
Oh man. You have to keep them together. That has been the success for this defensive group. It's been defense by committee. No one's been amazing. It's all just the consistency through that defensive core, and you just gotta. It is what it is.
I think our defense have looked good enough in Calgary's zone. I mean, I like to see them look better, but I think if the forwards are chipping in, they've looked good enough. But Kevin, I agree with you. The big problem that we're seeing from them is not keeping that puck in at the blue line in the Dallas zone. And again, that goes back to what I was saying about, I think it might be up here, right? Is something going on that maybe they're feeling intimidated by the guys coming at them. Who knows what it is? And I just don't know that breaking them up does you any good. I think you've just got to get those guys to play through it at this point.
Yeah, and that's listening to Rhett Warner on 960 all those years. You have to play him more. You have to play him more just so that they can get into a groove get out of the groove that they're in right now into a different one, and hopefully it's in the right direction.
And we're talking a lot about the penalties as well. Those guys are on and off the ice based on penalty time. I mean, both Hannafin and Anderson played almost 27 minutes altogether yesterday. So I think part of it could just be overuse of those guys because we're having to jumble our lines because of penalties. And maybe it's just staying out of the box and getting some other guys some time on there and letting those guys not play as much. I mean, 26 minutes is a lot. Those guys are on the ice for over a whole period.
Yeah. Gabranson and Tanev had, in terms of shorthanded time, I mean, that's the number one defense pair. They were 3.5 minutes each. And then you had Hannafin and Anderson at 1.5 minutes. And then you're giving them 24 minutes. Tanev is 22. Are you saying we should give Tanev more minutes?
Well, I mean, if you look at Anderson, for example, Anderson got 24-15 total time on ice. So he got 255 power play, 136 shorthanded. So I think just because we're getting so many penalties and we're getting into these weird scenarios, those guys are out there quite a bit. I mean, Anderson and Hanifin are out there for the power play and the shorthanded. Maybe you've got to take them off the shorthanded and put other guys out there to rest them. But, 24, 25, 26 minutes is a lot of hockey for defensemen. When you've got Zadorov out there for 13, 21, I mean, if you can't rely on him, maybe he's got to come out of the lineup and Stone's got to go in or something. But it just seems like between 24-15 and 13-21, you're maybe playing your top pair too much. I'd be tired if I played 24 minutes.
Hell yeah, absolutely.
Mind you, I'd be tired if I played 13-21 as well.
I agree with you. That's exactly what I was going to go. Put Zadorov in on that PK, and if you can't trust him, like you said, you need to take him out. He needs to come out for a better defensive player, and I think Michael Stone, with his experience, and he's a perfect Daryl Sutter player. Yeah, I think he just needs to get in that lineup, and especially big body for big body. That Stone is going to be defensively sound, and he doesn't usually take penalties when he's playing.
Yeah, and if we look at Oliver Shillington too, who's in our second pair with Tanev, I mean, Shillington played 29 seconds of power play time and no shorthanded time. So I think you've got to be activating Shillington a little bit more as well. And again, if you can't trust him, well, then maybe he's got to either be demoted or sat out for a game or two. But it just seems like we're over-relying on one pair at this point.
Yeah.
And I don't blame them. I mean, again, we're getting into weird penalty trouble. You got to do what you got to do, but it's the fact of the matter.
Yeah, either one of those players, I would say Shillington over Zadorov. As far as if we're looking for a defensive shakeup, then you can move Zadorov up to Chris Tanev to help solidify that second unit, and then you have Michael Stone coming in who can play more defensive minutes with the Erica Branson.
And I know last time I chatted with you guys, we talked about the offensive production this year. And I think that Shillington probably has one of the best shots on that back six. So maybe you give him some power play time and let him try to put it towards the net. Not his score, but put it up there for the forwards to pick up those rebounds off Ottinger.
It was his pitch that led to the Lindholm goal. He didn't get an assist, but I mean, I don't think he's been bad. But he needs a little bit more. Noah Hanifin had 5 giveaways last night. That is more than the Dallas Star defense combined, by the way. They had a total of 4.
Yep. And Shillington did get some time on the power play along with Chris Tanev. I believe that was game 1 or game 2. I think it was game 2 that was that happened. But I agree. Like there might be the dynamic skating and just the way that Shillington plays. There's not one like him on this roster, on this defensive 6. And taking him out of the lineup might be hard to do that. Either way, I just think that, once again, getting that shakeup is necessary. Get Michael Stone in, and he can play that 13 minutes that Zadorov is playing, or and that might just be a 5-on-5, and then you can actually have another PK guy there, because I'm at this point in the playoffs. I'm not expecting any points from the on defense. I'm looking up front and being like, okay, you guys need to produce up there. Let the defense take care of the defensive zone, have a good first pass out, and then everything else would take care of itself.
And defense have to keep the puck in the offensive zone too, which they're struggling with.
Yeah, and with Stone's shot, I know it's he has a hell of a shot. It's heavy. It's just it's not as accurate as you want it to be. But hey, maybe
that's the forward's job to clean that up. Put it towards the net and let the forwards clean it up.
Totally.
Well, even if it goes off the boards, even if he misses it, maybe it goes off the boards, off Ottinger's shoulder and in. Who knows?
Or just aim for Ottinger's head, rattle him.
It might create a rebound. That's the point of the shot, right?
Yeah.
Well, with the number of goalies we've already seen in the playoffs, if we start aiming for Ottinger's head, we're going to see Scott Wedgwood make his playoff debut.
Woo.
Yes. I guess now that to me, I don't like, I mean, if I was to do it, I would look at the Zadorov Stone change. I would keep Shillington in the lineup.
I would too. And, I might actually keep Zadorov in the lineup and take Goodbranson now because I think that Zadorov is the leader for hits on the back end. And I think that's something we need to keep Dallas away from our net and maybe just try to change the dynamic of that pair.
And he's had 2 penalties too, right? Zadorov?
He has.
Yeah. So you got to mitigate those. You have to. And those aren't offsetting. Both of them were one was a hold, and I forget the other one. But that cannot happen.
That hold was it was a choice. It was a choice to call that a penalty. I'll say that.
Well, we talked about that. That was first game, and there wasn't really consistency throughout that game because I saw another one on I think it was Suter, and that wasn't called. So I mean, I know it's hard to have that consistency, but as a fan, I want it. I need it, especially if it's going against us.
I won't play it here, but we have a 3-minute voicemail on our podcast voicemail from a drunk Flames fan who believes that because Gary Bettman was in attendance for Game 1, the refs were trying to stack the deck against the Flames.
Oh,
I love these conspiracy theories. There's so much fun.
This guy is rambling drunk for 3 minutes on my voicemail.
That's so good.
Oh,
oh God.
Oh, okay. Yeah, he would. Okay. Yeah. I mean, as far as Markstrom, I don't think there's anything to complain about with Markstrom at all. I think he's been fantastic. He's not been the issue.
Markstrom is as advertised, I would say. He's been the goalie we've seen all year.
Yep, he's been
every single goal is a tip or a rebound.
Yep, and he made a 10-beller on Heiskanen, and the Flames couldn't clear it, and that led to the tying goal.
Yep.
And Heiskanen has been fantastic. I would argue Heiskanen has been the best defenseman in this series.
Yeah. You know what? I don't think I've really noticed him too much, to be completely honest with you. And along with any other of the defensemen other than Klingberg being polarizing, I'd say it might even.
But sometimes a good defenseman isn't noticed.
Absolutely. Well, Esa Lindell, right? Very, very sound. Unless you're looking for Chris Tanev, he can be amazing. So I'd say as of right now, you have a bit of a wash within the defense, and that's why I'm looking for more offense.
Okay, let's get to the psyche here, because this is a movie we've seen far too many times. This is the movie we saw in 2019. This is the movie we've seen in 2020 in some ways. It's sort of the hopes, and we have this hope of the Flames, and the fans are feeling a little bit let down. Great seasons from Lindholm, Gaudreau, and Tkachuk, but as we've talked about, they're not, other than Lindholm, not great playoffs. And now down 2-1 to a team that many maybe feel they should be up at least 2-1 or 3-0 from. What do we have to say about the psyche? Obviously a win changes the movie script. But I feel like we have the ability to reassure Flames fans in some ways here. Maybe it's our age or our elderness. But I'm going to start with the one thing that does give me some comfort. And I know maybe I'm old school and in some ways, and I'm meat and potatoes and all of that, and sometimes I'm a simple folk. But
just sometimes.
Yeah. But I really do believe that this Daryl Sutter and this coaching staff will make the adjustments and the tweaks necessary. I really, really do. Like, I just can't see this team bowing out in 5. I can't see this team losing tomorrow.
Can I give you my take on this, Kevin?
In a second. I just,
sure.
I don't know. I just feel like Daryl and this staff is too smart and there's been too much put into this for this to be different. Go ahead.
Like I agree with you. There's too much put in for this to not be different than the past. And also, we're round 1, 3 games in. If this team is going to go deep, they're going to be down 1 game. You're going to lose 2 in a row. Like, to me, this is something you have to learn to battle back from in the playoffs. We think we're going to steamroll everybody all the way to drinking a Lord Stanley's mug. We're kidding ourselves. And you know what? This is going to happen. I'd almost rather it happens now and they learn how to battle back from it than it happens for the first time in round 3 and they go, oh, crap, we're down for the first time. What do we do? So I think that this is, like you said, I think between the coaches, between some guys here that are proven playoff commodities like Coleman, and guys who haven't had a chance to prove themselves because they haven't had a lot of playoff opportunities like Mangiapane, like Dubé. I think that there's enough talent on this team that we've seen over 82 games. If they want to figure this out, they'll figure it out. And I mean, there's only so many X's and O's the coaches can do. I think a lot of it's how the game's played. But if these guys want this, I think they'll figure it out. And I think it's good that we're having this ability now.
That's a great.
Yeah. Oh, sorry, Devin. I was gonna go. I'll add something after. Go ahead.
I agree. I'd rather have this now than in round 2. Figure out how to bounce back from adversity. This core and this carnation of the Flames really. This game, I think, this next game is very, very telling on what. First of all, the offseason is going to look like. And second of all, just solidifying what we think or what these players are going to be. Johnny Gaudreau, Matthew Tkachuk. Those are the big ones. And, you know, the bounce back needs to happen. And in Darryl, we trust. But the thing is that Darryl can only do so much, right? He's not out there going through the lines, forechecking, getting it on Deer's face. That's something that everybody else needs to do. And I would love to see it. I would absolutely love to see it.
We have enough Sutter brothers that if our guys don't get it done, they'll have to take it in their own hands.
Get them off the farm. Come on. But
right.
You really just need to this game is so important. I hope they feel the pressure, but not as much as the Flames fans are feeling it. Because they are feeling it in the locker room and know how important this next game is. Because being down 3-1, how many times has a team come back and won that? I believe it's under 10.
No, I think it's a little bit. It's more.
I'm pretty sure it's single digits in NHL history. Anyways.
Okay, which leads to my point, though. I'll look this up in a second, but I need my hands for this. 1989, the Calgary Flames were had a battle with the Vancouver Canucks, and I do believe at one point they were trailing in that series 2-1 to that Canucks through that Canucks series. That was as big of a mismatch as you could get in the playoffs, and they needed overtime to beat the Canucks in Game 7. Joel Otto knocks it in, and then they went 8-1 after that en route to the playoffs. The Philadelphia Flyers were down 3-0 to the Boston Bruins and came back and won the series and went to the Stanley Cup final. 1994 or 93, 94, Flames were up 3-1 to the Vancouver Canucks. The Canucks win 3 straight overtime games, 1 in triple overtime, to win that series, and they steamrolled their way and they won their way to the Stanley Cup. 2011, the Vancouver Canucks were up 3-0 to the Chicago Blackhawks and needed overtime to win that series. And then they rolled to the Stanley Cup finals. My point is this. Some of the toughest adversity that you're going to deal with is from a favorite team is in the first round. And I agree with you. If this is going to happen, it's going to happen now. And even if it comes up that there's a battle in any other round, there's something to build on here. So down 2-1 isn't great, but this is also where we can see where this team builds this and develops this core. In a lot of ways, it's good that this game is on the road because they can get their mind off of their off of the pressure that I think is going on here, and in Calgary or in Canada, and playing in a Canadian market, and just play their game and figure it out. So, and I just think there's too much. There's enough veterans in this locker room that even though there's not one in a quote unquote skilled position, I'm not too worried, because you ultimately need those role players to get the job done anyway.
Kevin, well, you're right. Teams have come back from 3-0 or 3-1. Let's not be in that position. Like, let's figure this out before we get there. You know, let's not say, well, we got another game to gamble on because someone's done it in the past. I mean, you know, some guys got hit by a car and lived too. We don't really want to see if that's going to happen to us. But yeah, I think you're right. We need the role players. We need the guys throughout. But I think these Flames need to show they can handle adversity. And last time I chatted with you, gents, you know, you had said that, and I think it was Devin, the Flames haven't had a lot of adversity this year. Well, here's their adversity. Let's see how they handle it.
It was Sean.
Sean, okay.
Yeah. This is a statement game. They need to come out, and the best way you can do it is blow them out of the fucking water. Mm-hmm. Make sure that they're choking on their spit. They're getting snot bubbled in the corner, dominate in every single fashion. And this team can do it, right? Mm-hmm. We know this team can do it. Well, everything has led us to believe that this team can do it. And now it's time for them to fucking show that they can, and just even come out and like score 3 in the first period. You know, there's different ways you can make your statement known by winning this game, and I think they can do it. I really do.
Yeah, and you know, I think Dallas may also come into that game a little too cocky as well.
Yeah, I mean, if I'm a Dallas fan, okay, you're ahead 2-1. Okay, Joe Pavelski's is scoring goals, but where's Tyler Seguin? Where's Jamie Benn? Where's Rupe Hintz? I don't think that they have been. The reason that you're happy if you're Dallas is because you're up 2-1 and you're the underdogs in the series, but you found a way to get 2 wins. Yeah, it's not like you have played incredibly better than the Calgary Flames. This has not been a situation where Dallas has dominated Calgary at all. So, I don't know. This just has the feel that this is going to be a long series, and I think people need to accept that. I think Dan and I had this at a 6-game series, and wouldn't surprise me if it's 7, and it may not surprise me if it ends up in overtime.
I'm surprised it hasn't. I'm surprised it has not ended up in overtime, just the way that everything's gone within this first 3 games. The biggest thing is that they come out tomorrow and it's tied 2-2, and then it's down to 3 games. And it's a 3-game series at that point. You can come out, come back home, get the crowd on your side. But I think the other thing that they need to do is keep things simple. When I saw success from getting out of our offensive zone into a good attack or out of the defensive zone into a good attack for the offensive zone, was when they were making 5-foot passes, supporting each other, not doing these massive, big cross-ice passes. Keep it simple. And what made them successful in that first period was dumping and chasing and getting in on attack and just having wave after wave after wave, just dominating them in the offensive zone. It wasn't really dominating, but it was more so just getting in on them and being physical. That to Kevin's point about meat and potatoes, that's exactly what needs to happen. Simplify it more. Don't make it ridiculously difficult. And I think that is the recipe for the success of the Calgary Flames.
And there have been Dallas defensive breakdowns. So you look at the Johnny Gaudreau breakaway late, he scores, they go to overtime. You'd had the Heiskanen icing in game 1. That was a questionable decision. Jamie Benn's icing in game 3 is a questionable decision that was only nullified by the fact that the Flames couldn't win a faceoff to save their life. But that was not a smart icing play. It's not like Dallas has been overly impressive in this series. I'm sorry. again, maybe I'm wearing my Flames shirt and Flames bias here, but I don't think that they have been overly impressive.
I would say that Calgary has been the least worst of the two teams.
Yeah.
The least
and
bad.
What's gonna define the series is who's gonna capitalize on the miscues.
Yep.
Right. And right now Calgary hasn't.
Yep.
And Dallas has actually. It's not even miscues. Dallas has just been, other than 2 tip-in goals, has been lucky to be in the right spot.
I'd say Dallas has capitalized on opportunities.
Yeah, there you go. Yep.
Yep. Anything else on this game we need to unpack?
You know, and if you, it's interesting you were mentioning coaching staff, Kevin. If you go back to the beginning of the season, there were some comments from Daryl Sutter early in the season to the media about, you know what, these guys are trying to do things their own way. And if they just listen to me, we could start getting some wins. And I'm wondering if maybe that's a little bit of that's happening here, where the players are starting to play it their way or doing what they know. And you got to wonder what's going on behind closed doors with Daryl saying, guys, I told you what we need to do to win. You didn't do that. Matthew, you're out chasing guys around and, you know, these guys doing this thing. And if you just listen to me, we'd win these games. And I wonder if there's almost a re-buy-in period these guys are now going through and going, oh, we're down by 2. Maybe we should listen to the old man.
The guy that carries around horses and cows seems to know what he's doing. That guy, that cowboy.
Right? I mean, Daryl led us to the promised land. Maybe we need to re-buy in and make sure that, that we're on the same page and doing what Daryl's asking us to. Even if it doesn't feel natural, Daryl showed us he can get us here. Let's keep following that. And I wonder if there's almost a need to re-buy in.
Yeah. I think you're right. I think I just think we'll see a more of an effort. I do.
And talking about horses, I almost feel like Daryl needs to get some blinders from the farm and put them on the Flames players. Stop dealing with the Dallas guys. Stop worrying about the chippy stuff and the gloves coming off. Just focus on your game. Focus on putting that puck ahead and moving in straight lines down the ice. Like, I think if we can get the Flames to stop dealing with all the externalities, all the things Dallas is trying to do to get in their head, they can play well. But I think the Flames are being sucked into the way Dallas wants to play this.
Yeah.
I think that's a perfect way to sum it up.
Yeah.
If the Flames play the Flames game, the Flames will win.
Yeah, I agree.
If the Flames play Dallas's game, Dallas will win.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like, and maybe we'll just quickly touch I'll kind of just start here and then we can kind of unpack some of the other series in whatever way that we want. As Todd McClellan said in 25 seconds, I'll keep this short for you. Nobody was good. We let the Oilers we played the Oilers game. Grundstrom didn't play because he was hurt. On to the next game. It's pretty much kind of like, that's exactly like what the Kings are and the Oilers. The Kings are playing the Oilers.
The Grundstrom part, yeah.
Yeah. And you can't, the Kings are not, like, the Kings are obviously not going to win playing Oilers hockey. And it's the same thing. The Flames are not going to win playing Dallas Star hockey.
Yeah. I'm hoping they've got it out of their system now. It's okay. You've had a chance, Matthew, to fight whoever you want to fight and got that out of your system and just play your game.
Yep.
Any other series or any other things we wanted to touch on here?
The Leafs, that third game was amazing. That was a statement game, I think, for them. And being able to come back and basically Calgary needs to take a page out of that book.
Yep.
It really do. And it wasn't the big guys that were scoring within that game. You had Colin Blackwell with one. You had David Kampf with one. You had Mikheyev with 2, and then Morgan Riley with 1. The big boys, I mean, Marner got an assist, and that's pretty much it. They stuck to their game plan, and they were able to come out on top. Calgary really just needs to do that. What Toronto did in Game 3 with Tampa. Now, do I think that Toronto's going to win this game? I don't think so. I think they're going to be going back to Toronto tied 2-2.
But it was 3-0. It got to 3-2, and they held on. And that was huge. That was a huge, significant moment. I really believe that.
Yep, exactly.
Remember, it was 4-1.
Exercising demons, right?
Yep.
And if Toronto wins this series, what a great way to start off this exercising demons and taking out the two-time champs. Granted, there's a lot to happen in between now and the end of the series, but I'm fairly confident with the way that they are playing and are able to at least get a split going down into Tampa.
Yeah,
So Devin, I'll just humor that idea for a minute of exercising demons. If Toronto makes it through and ends up playing Florida, do they have a chance there?
Oh yeah, I think so. That
they
confidence.
might be playing Washington. They might be playing Washington.
I mean, either way, I think that confidence is going to bleed through, and they just got to make sure that they the cliche of taking it shift by shift, game by game. But I do believe that if they get out of this first round, that should be enough for them, at least mentally, to persevere through adversity.
Yeah, it's going to be. The goaltending so far, like it's not been. There's been a lot. I think there's only. Let me count. There's Vasilevsky's played every minute. Campbell's played every minute. Bobrovsky has played every minute. Fleury, Husso, Markstrom, Ottinger, and Smith. So 9 of the 16 goalies have played every minute. And so far, I think that's the other story. But I'm Smith is going to flub up here. It's just the Oilers cannot go up 3-1, can they?
Well, I would say Smith already flubbed up in game 1, but the Oilers were able to sort of outwork his flub ups.
He'll do it again if they get past the LA Kings. He'll do it again, and that might be the straw that breaks Campbell's back. Whether or not that's his own back or his team's back, you can be out there with crutches. I think that this is a longer series than Oilers fans are willing to admit. I think
agree.
It's going to go 6 or 7. Go for it, Dan.
And, I was going to say, I think it'll be 6-7, like you said. And I think that whoever takes them on, either Dallas or Calgary, is going to get a very tired and, exhausted team in round 2.
Well, especially the heavy lifting from the big 2 up there. You can only do that for so long.
Yeah. Can I give you guys my personal pet peeve this week on NHL.com?
What's that?
The official logo for the Flames, the Black Sea, which is not an official logo for the team this year. Some intern forgot to change out the graphics package.
How dare they?
I hope they get an F.
No, kidding. No, I hope they get fired. Or hit by a bus. I don't know. No hit by buses.
I mean, the NHL should be the one that knows the current logos for every team. It's not like it's being put on, the Dallas website. If the official brackets on NHL.com are showing the wrong logo, to me, there's an issue there. But
you should call Gary Bettman right now.
It's like the old 60s Batman. I just have a red phone with a pie plate over it. I just pick it up, and Gary's on the other end.
And then you can go over. Maybe you can play Gary your drunken listener message.
That's right.
I want to hear it. Anyway, anything else we want to talk about?
I don't think so. I'm pretty good.
Dan, or
I think I think the only thing to talk about is just that it's not the end of the world. They're down by 1. The Flames still have a lot of chance to win this series. And I would suggest Flames fans look at this game by game and brush this off and say, we can still win this very easily. We're only down by 1.
Exactly. And you got to lose 2 games. You got to win 3 before you lose 2.
Yep.
And I bet on the Calgary Flames to do that. Just on an outside perspective, and take those 2 games those 3 games as a wash, because you can't worry about what happened in the past. Just worry about, again, the cliche shift by shift.
Yep. But I just want to remind people, like I saw on Twitter, it's like people think the playoffs are over. We're down by 1. Dallas was down by 1 after game 1, right? I mean, everybody's down by 1 at some point. We're only down by 1. Now, if we get down by 2 or 3, now we got an issue, but we're down by 1.
Yeah.
And actually, I do want to give props to Michael Backlund. I think he's played formidably well. Really, people who are shitting on him, I don't think they should be. He had a great opportunity. It was a 2-on-1, and he almost scored. He's had a few of those in the past 2 games, and if he keeps on doing the process that he is, I'm really happy with the way that he has played.
Devin, I would say there that I think crapping on Michael Backlund's become a playoff ritual for Flames fans. Almost like putting the flag on your car. It seems like every playoffs, Backlund takes a huge amount of heat from the Sea of Red. I would say unjustifiably most of the time, but just seems like it's part of our playoff ritual in the city, unfortunately.
That's why I think Backlund and Tkachuk putting them together might actually spark some offense.
Backlund took a lot of heat in the last Dallas series in the bubble. He took a lot of heat in the Colorado series. Like, it just seems like he's the punching bag for the playoffs. But I agree with you, Kevin. I think that might be a good pairing.
And sorry, Devin, just let me quickly say this. I've said that Tanner Pearson's one of the most underappreciated Canucks in the Canucks market. Michael Backlund is one of the most underappreciated Flames in Calgary market. I just do not think that the fan base has appreciated what Michael Backlund has been. I think there's an understanding. I think a little bit of an understanding off ice, but on ice, I don't think people understand how good he has been, because he doesn't come with a lot of awards. He doesn't come with a lot of fanfare. He doesn't come with a lot of wonderful stats, but there are 32 teams that would love to have a Michael Backlund on it, for sure.
Yes.
Fans buy jerseys for the guys that score points.
Yeah.
His game 1 was questionable, but game 2 and 3, I thought he played very well. And to your point, put Tkachuk back on his line, get Tkachuk more defensively orientated, because if you take care of your defensive zone, the offense will come. And once he has that flair and that offensive mindset again for Tkachuk, man, watch out. He just needs to stay out of the fucking box. Tkachuk, stay out of the box and stick to his game plan. And I just thought I'd give props to Backlund before we sign off.
Glad you did.
Cool. All right, Dan, are you recording tonight?
We are. Matt and I are going to be recording Fireside Chat tonight after 3 games, looking at where we're at and what's coming up. We may play the drunk voicemail, so if anyone wants to hear it, you can listen to this week's show and see if it makes it to air or not. I got to go back and listen to it again, but it'll be us having a similar conversation here to what we've done. And we have something we're doing on our show this playoff, where every week we're playing a new playoff anthem made by the Sea of Red. So tonight we have a fresh playoff anthem that we'll be putting on the show as well.
Yeah. All right. We will be back tonight to recap. I've titled it What Jim Said, as Jim Rutherford did not give the vote of confidence to Bruce Boudreau that everyone in Vancouver wanted to hear. We're going to unpack that. So we'll be having, it'll be 4 Pacific, 5 Mountain. We'll be live again with Sean, Chris, and whoever else joins us. Devin, how do we follow you?
Follow me on Twitter at GordHouse09.
And Dan?
We are firesidechat.ca. On Twitter, we are at Fireside Podcast, Facebook.com/FiresideChat. And you can obviously find our show wherever you can find podcasts.
Sean Beardy, Canuck 03, Christian Schneids, SCHNEIDZ, Tyler TNOBLE, I am KUVOLE, Ships and Pucks, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, wherever you get fine podcasts, as well as on the Area 51 Sports Network. We'll be back Tuesday to recap what happens in Game 4 between the Flames and the Stars. And back tonight to talk Canucks, back Tuesday to talk Flames. Thanks, everyone, for watching and listening. We'll talk to you all very soon. Bye for now.